All right, let's jump right into today's explainer and uncover the hidden culprit behind why your academic performance might be suffering. We spend countless hours reviewing notes, organizing flashcards, and optimizing our study schedules. But what if the very thing derailing all that hard work is actually something you consumed right before walking through the classroom door? Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating mechanics of how high sugar intake directly impacts your brain during those high-stakes moments.
We've all been there, right? You sit down for your exam. You studied hard, you slept well, you feel totally prepared. You flip over the test paper, read the very first complex question, and suddenly, nothing. Your mind goes completely blank, leaving you wondering exactly what went wrong. I mean, the information was right there last night, so why is it suddenly inaccessible? It's incredibly frustrating, especially when you know you put the work in. But the answer to this mystery might not actually lie in your study habits. It might actually be rooted in your metabolism.
Section 1. The Pre-Exam Sugar Trap.
So, it's a super common ritual. You grab an energy drink, a soda, maybe a candy bar for a quick jolt to power through a test. But the source material we're looking at is crystal clear on this. Consuming high amounts of sugar actively works against your brain. It doesn't give you sustained energy, it literally kills your grades by slowing down your cognitive reasoning and completely disrupting your focus. Think of your brain as a highly tuned engine during an exam. It needs the right kind of fuel to run complex equations, recall historical dates, or structure a persuasive essay. When you flood that engine with a massive amount of sugar, you aren't fueling it, you're essentially flooding it, significantly slowing down the precise mental gears required to reason through difficult problems. Think of sugar as, well, a paper fire. If you throw a sheet of paper onto a flame, what happens? It burns incredibly brightly for a fleeting moment, giving off a sudden burst of heat. But just as quickly, it burns out, leaving you in the cold dark with nothing but ash. That is exactly your brain on a pretest candy bar. Now compare that to a slow-burning log. A log takes time to catch, sure, but once it does, it provides steady, reliable, and balanced energy over a long period. That is the exact kind of fuel your brain requires to navigate a grueling 2-hour exam without suddenly shutting down. Moving on to Section 2, your brain on sugar. Okay, to really understand the physiological chain reaction happening inside your body the second that test clock starts ticking, we first need to define the exact cognitive tools your brain relies on to successfully navigate an exam. We're talking about executive focus and cognitive reasoning. Executive focus is your brain's ability to lock onto the task at hand, blocking out the sound of the ticking clock, the person coughing next to you, and your own test anxiety. Cognitive reasoning, on the other hand, is what allows you to logically solve problems under pressure. It's taking a question you've never seen before, breaking it down into its component parts, and applying what you know to find the answer. These are really high-level brain functions, and they require absolute metabolic stability to operate at peak efficiency. Let's actually walk through the timeline of a sugar crash when you consume high sugar right before a test. At the 10-minute mark, you hit peak glucose. You feel great, energized, maybe a little jittery, but confident. Your paper fire is burning bright. But then, right around the 30-minute mark, your body detects this massive spike and releases a huge insulin surge to compensate and bring those sugar levels back down. By the 60-minute mark, right in the absolute thick of your exam, the crash hits. Your blood sugar plummets, and you are left stranded in a thick brain fog. You're biologically exhausted right when you need your intellect the most. Section 3, the mid-exam cognitive crash. So right here is where we hit that crucial mid-exam wall. The contrast in your mental state is wild depending on your fuel. Operating on steady, balanced blood sugar gives you sustained access to those executive focus and cognitive reasoning tools we just talked about. You can read a paragraph, retain its meaning, and synthesize an answer effortlessly. But when you're experiencing crashing blood sugar, your brain goes into a mild panic. It senses a major energy deficit. The symptoms? Lethargy, an inability to hold a thought in your working memory, and that horrible, horrible feeling where you have to reread the exact same exam question 4 times because the words just aren't registering. When we look at the data, the drop in reasoning speed as the exam drags on is intense. Before the crash, your reasoning speed and focus are elevated and robust, but during that mid-exam brain fog, the drop isn't just subtle, it's a sheer cliff face. Your reasoning speed practically slows down to a crawl. In a timed environment, this loss of speed and focus is absolutely devastating. It is quite literally the difference between an A and a C. And it's not because you didn't know the material. It's simply because your brain lacked the biological stability to access it.
Which brings us to Section 4, protecting your academic performance. We really cannot let a poor nutritional choice at the final hour invalidate weeks of diligent studying. To sum up this explainer, the real cost of high sugar intake on your test-taking capabilities is undeniable. It kills grades, it slows down cognitive reasoning right when you need it to be fast and sharp, it disrupts executive focus, and it virtually guarantees that a mid-exam brain fog will roll in. The source material spells it out perfectly for us. The cost of that brief, sugary comfort is just far too bitter when your academic success is on the line. As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to consider the next time you prepare to sit down and ace a test. You've done the reading, you've memorized the formulas, and you are totally ready to succeed. But looking at the science of cognitive reasoning and metabolic crashes, what are you going to feed your brain before your next exam? Will you choose the fleeting flash of the paper fire or the steady, reliable power of the slow-burning log? The choice is entirely yours, and your grades depend on it.